Okay. Item number 2, consider and take appropriate action regarding an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Trophy Club, Texas, calling a bond election to be held on May 10th, 2014, within the town for the issuance of general obligations bonds for a joint town hall and police facility and renovations to existing town facilities, making provisions for the conduct of the election and other provisions relating hereto. We did listen to people and recognize that I wasn't 100% comfortable with not taking this to a vote, so we feel that we want to at least discuss that among us. Mr. Sly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you mentioned, the council individually had indicated to me that you would like to consider the possibility of calling this issue to an election of the citizens. And in doing so, we've done a little bit more work. I've got 3 different proposals here, but the bottom line is, and I'll carry you through that and the differences. What you're considering today is potentially amending the resolutions you've already adopted, issuing the $9.5 million worth of COs. And that amendment follows what we're going to talk about now, to reduce that amount to 2.5 to allow us to move forward with the purchase of dirt and to continue the design process of a joint facility. This particular action is a resolution calling an election in May for the citizens that have a voice. And what we're anticipating and what we're asking you to consider is calling an election for the remaining amount of what we anticipate to have or require for a joint use facility, totaling $11.7 million. That's the total amount. We told you last time that we want to make sure that we are not, in fact, exceeding that $10 million threshold on a calendar basis to keep us bank qualified. What this potential election would do is simply authorize the town to issue that debt. It doesn't necessarily mean we're issuing $11.7 million today. We still want to maintain that bank qualification. But it also allows for you to take advantage of a favorable market. Mark McCliney, our financial advisor, is here to discuss these various models and opportunities, and hopefully you'll have the opportunity to deliberate the strategy from which we go forward. Last time, Council Member Faulkner and Lamont had identified with that level tax rate, the level INS tax rate, the fact that it was backloaded. It is backloaded. We're going to present to you another model today with level funding or level payments for your consideration. And just for kicks and grins, we'll also show you a model that's paid out over a 10-year period and show you what the tax implications are for a 10-year payout. With that, I'll let Mark go through the models with you, and then we can talk about the pros and cons of each.
This is the same item as that's on the screen, but sometimes it's easier to look at it and see it on hand. Numbers are still small, but I think this might be helpful as we discuss this. Mr. Sly's right. What we've done, we used the first option, trying to be as close to where we were yesterday as we were, today as we were last week. If you'll see here, and I'll go through the assumptions. This scenario, this option 1, you'll see it up there, it says no tax increase. We've got the existing tax rate, current tax rate for the debt service at 11.5 cents. So this assumes 11.5 cent INS tax rate. We issue 2.5 to be, if this is the plan, we'd sell those in April. We would have the election in May for $11.7 million. We would issue in the summer $7,250,000, so we remain $10 million underneath the $10 million cap. Then in November or December, January, February, March, sometime going forward, we would sell the balance. It says right now $4,450,000. If we could delay that, if interest rates are not creeping up, we would delay that till the summer so that we don't have $111,250 worth of interest on that 2015 issue, column 12, that first payment. That would get delayed. You'll see on the far right-hand column, other than that first year of $128,000, again, we would delay the 2015 issue, so that number will go away. The longer we can delay it, the smaller that number would be. But we have enough cash in INS reserves to cover it in the event we have to issue early 2015. But you can see on the far right-hand column that at 11.5 cents, you can do the entire project, which totals $14,200,000. That was our starting point. Option 2 was, and back on option 1, like Mr. Sly said, we are back-loading a lot of that debt. So to maintain the 11.5 cents, we needed to taper it in with the existing debt went away. Option 2 was still issuing the same timetable, but notice column 10, 11, and 12, all three of those are somewhat equal in payment. We can't make them exactly equal, but very close. So there is level debt service. And you see in column 13, it is showing no shortfall. How did we do that? We increased the tax rate to 14 cents. That box, the INS tax rate, increases by 2.5 cents. So in order to do level debt service like a typical mortgage, it would take a 2.5 cent increase from where you are right now. Exactly right.
So that is a strategy. Or we can set the INS rate at whatever it is required to service that debt. And you can see that with the conservative model that you're looking at, it's going to be something less than 2.5. So it's certainly not going to exceed 2.5% impact on our resident, our property. Okay?
And if you all elect to call a bond election, the first question that comes out from the residents is, what is the tax rate? So what Mr. Sly is saying, we want to have that number available and know that, okay, we're going to tell our voters 2.5. That doesn't mean 2.7. It means 2.5. And this just shows up, if it turns out because council, when it's time to set the tax rate, we only need 2.4, and you don't want to do that surplus of 2.2, that's when you'll set the tax rate. But I've done this enough times when you're calling a bond election, the first question out is, what's it going to cost? And that we wanted to have that number firm that we know we will not exceed. And that's what this does. And that's what that model shows.
I would point out that you also have to put that in your election order now. You have to put in there how much is going to increase your tax. It's a new requirement of the state law.
So you'll see up in the upper left-hand corner of this model, we've punched in a 14 cent tax rate for INS. That's what's driving those surplus numbers. Okay? I think that's a small price to pay to save $1.6 million in interest. But that's for you guys to consider.
If you want to look at option 3, all we did on option 3 is we made it 3 bond issues at the same timing. However, we shortened them to 10 years. So it's just like paying off your house in 10 years. And you can see that the savings of interest is quite substantial. But the shortfall versus the 11.5 cents puts us at about $1 million a year. So that's just is an illustration, but it's not anything that I think we're leaning towards offering. But it's an illustration of what could happen. And it's just the same as saying, if you could pay cash for it. We're shortening it, we're making it, taking away a lot of the interest.
Well, one of the things about paying interest is that when you pay for something as large as a facility over time, the person who's actually gaining the use of it is the one paying for it. If you save money, like, and buy your house cash, or buy it cash, then it's all those people in the past that are paying for it, but the people in the future are getting the use of it. And that's always the concept of municipal debt, is that the people who are realizing the benefit are the ones paying.
It's a little less than 8 cents for a 10-year payout.
10 years is true.
We know there's no more than 2.5 cents for a level debt payout, and the savings is $1.6 million. Assuming, and again, that's one of the assumptions that we had built into this model are ultra-conservative interest payments or interest rates. As I mentioned, or I think I sent an email to the entire council, the day after you approved the $9.5 million CO, the town of Copper's Cove issued $9.5 million in COs that day at 3.26%. That's at that day at 3.26. By the time we roll around into May, Mark is indicating to me that we're probably in the 3.5% value. That's going to have an impact on this entire model favorable to the citizens of the Trophy Club. We're painting the worst possible scenario for you. We know it's not going to be over 2.5. To say so if it comes in less than that, if we get it at 3.5, it's going to have an impact on what that tax rate would have to be, because we have to pay less. And just for clarification purposes, what we're also recommending is not a 20-year issue, but a 21-year issue. I know that's been some concern of the council. What we're recommending is, this is the wrong model. This is actually a 21-year model for the GOs. 20-year COs, 21-year payout for the GOs.
But then with that much, if you chose to, with that kind of overlap, you could pay that sooner and probably save additional funds.
Yeah, and the other option, there's all kinds of options available to you. If there is a tax surplus, you can say, plow that back into the principal and pay it off early, just like you can with your own mortgage. So you have those options for you. We know that what we painted for you today is the worst case scenario. I had the opportunity, along with Stephen and Chief Nippon and Sergeant Wes Tyler today, to tour a joint facility in Highland Village. They have also invited us to put you guys on a bus and have you tour that facility. We talked in terms of efficiencies, workflow, citizen efficiencies. They couldn't speak more highly of that. We don't particularly think that particular design that they have would be something that we would do, but we are very limited on dirt options. So we want to take advantage of them as much as we can. I know that the last time we met, and you consider the CO issue, we got kind of hung up on the idea of a civic center. The thought was, we'd never talked about building a civic center, just designing this facility in a manner to be able to add a civic center to that area, whether it's on top of the facility that we ultimately build, or side by side. We still have significant parking requirements, future, so that we can, if some future council wants to move forward with a civic center, we can. And we've got it designed in such a manner that it would work. That's all it is. We're not building a civic center. I want to make that very clear. What we're proposing is to build a joint police department and municipal hall.
I will say this, if you raise taxes 2.5 cents, you have a huge hurdle to convince residents that you need $14.7 million.
Which I would like to ask a question. I want to go back to the first model.
Not me, I'll add. Not me.
And I want an explanation as to the second model being a better model than backloading debt. Here we have something that does not increase the tax rate,
Right.
and it allows for us to pay our debt on an ongoing period of time. So I'd like for you to discuss backloading negative, I guess. I mean, why?
And I have a question on that. Why do you not backload the lower interest rate? The CO.
There's so many options that we could use, no question about it. We could put zero principal in all these years and put up great big bullets here because we've got $540,000. Anytime you don't put principal in it, and you don't have a requirement in your finance policies to pay principal in each year. So we can't just completely backload it. But in an environment where we know that this is lower, if that's what you all wanted us to do, we could do it. Our goal was, on this option, was what we've been working on for the last 3 years. You have a goal of keeping your tax rate at 11.5 cents on the tax rate. That was a stated goal. In 2011, your total tax rate was 53 cents. Now it's at
49.
It's 49. And that's been a stated goal of the council. So we knew the project. We got dollar amounts. We knew the goal of the council at the time was to keep it 11.5 cents. So boom, there it is. We can get it done.
Well, then I don't see any need to talk about raising taxes 2 cents
And
if this works.
But
regarding the backload.
At that meeting, though, there was heartache because it was backloaded.
That's correct.
And so we're trying to show you and give you all options on, okay, if there's heartache on backloading, because it does mean we're carrying more interest. Granted, when you present value it back to today, that interest comes back to the borrowing amount that you borrow. Present value interest and present value it back today equate back to zero. They come back to the borrowing dollar amount. But there was heartache there. So in an effort to see if there could be an alternative, let's make level debt service so there's no backloading. And in order to do that, it takes a 2.5% increase. That's why you all are the decision makers. We just kind of offer the options. If you all said, my God, let's go to 5-cent tax increase, we pay it off even quicker.
Okay, in addition to that, we do not have in here any revenue from commercial development.
That's correct.
And I would like to see you plug in something there that just an estimate of some kind of commercial increase to show how that can change the whole, it could change the whole scenario.
It's crazy, Mike. If you want
I'd like to see
that number, not that number, the taxable value on column 1, instead of being $1,331,000, change it to $1,005,000. And you'll see on the far right-hand column, again, using the 11.5 cents, the far right-hand column, you're going to see huge surpluses. So,
And that's still conservative for our commercial revenue, is that correct?
What did you add? What was the difference?
What you added up, $200,000.
$200 million? $200 million of
How much?
commercial. $200 million of commercial.
Is that reasonable to expect?
you guys had some really difficult decisions you just said.
I know. But even if it's down from that, you still get an increase down here if you're surplus. I just think we need to also remember that we're looking at only residential tax revenue here.
And at that, very conservative growth.
Correct.
But that's what we want to do, is look at
That's right.
conservative.
That's right.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. I'm painting the worst case scenario. It does not purport to have any of PD 30.
Right.
It has very little of the, it's got a little bit of Hampton Inn, but we're not anticipating anything. You know, we already have the Holiday Inn under construction.
Right.
Well, grading anyway. We're still waiting on the permit. And several other commercial opportunities that are right in front of us. It does not
I just
include
think that
PD30,
needs to be front and center.
So, yeah, again, I'm telling you, I'm painting the worst case scenario. What, to answer your question, the pro, or the con, I guess, for maintaining the 11.5-cent tax rate is it's going to cost you $1.6 million more than asking the citizens for 2.5 cents on their tax.
And it's either I pay it or my kids pay it.
Right.
Somebody's going to pay it.
Madam Mayor, if you get additional commercial increase in property values, that can reduce the overall tax for the year. Instead of being 50 cents and to get an additional commercial revenue, it reduces to 48 cents, and you're not paying 2.5-cent increase each year. That's a mythical number.
You're exactly right.
That's very true. We're just trying to be conservative here and not anticipating, but you're absolutely right.
Worst case scenario goes up to 2.5 cents. Once the commercial property starts coming in, it kicks in and reduces the overall tax rate back down. You don't have to pay the additional 2.5 cents.
It doesn't, to tag on to that comment, it doesn't have to even have commercial input. The growth that we're experiencing in the residential community can help offset that 2.5 cents. You know, that is what you as a council does during the budget cycle.
And this is just a snapshot of right now.
That's right. And it's, you know, if you tell me as an example, take the growth in the O&M rate and subsidize the INS, because we're going to have growth just like we have in the last 5 years, then that's what we do.
Mike, using simple math, $1.6 million over 20 is, what did I say? Breaks down to $76,000 a year. If you just divide it by 21 years, which is less than a penny. So it seems to me that if we were going to do this, it would be better to do it without raising the tax rate. Let's see where the growth goes, and as we gain extra money, then buy down the debt. And that way not pay the $1.6 million. But I mean, that seems, because I am totally on board with Trump. Selling this to the citizens of this town by raising their taxes, it doesn't matter if it's $75. That's not been what we've fought for, and that's not what we've argued for. I like what we did last time, but I think at the $1.6 million, even though it's backloaded, there's so many positives that we have to deal with that we can take that additional money and buy this debt down. That's kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah, I will say that I voted on 2 weeks ago on this. I like it, and I'm not interested in dealing with a tax increase. I want what we've been presented to us, and that's what I've been going to bed at night thinking about every night since then, and I'm not interested
Mark, do they-
in increasing tax.
I know the answer, so I'm tossing this off. Do they have to make this decision on what model they want?
To call the election, if you call the election, if you use the COs, no. I mean, that's already been approved. You don't do any other action. If you want to call an election, because new state law requires us to put what the tax rate's going to be, what we anticipate the tax rate, we have to know which option. And that's, as of this election, is brand new. If we had an election last time, you could just say, here it is. But, so it has to be in the ordinance. So, regardless, if you call an election, tomorrow people say, what's it going to cost me? So you're going to want to know that number anyway.
Okay.
But it's got to be in the election ordinance, what type of tax increase is anticipated, if any.
It's based on reasonable market expectations and your financial plan, and, we've caveated some of that language in there, but if you know you have two options, you want to pick one, you have no need to say.
I think the other thing for the next couple of years, our revenues are going to be exceeding expenses, and plus, we need to control expenses rather than deferring it to our children and grandchildren. Run a tight ship.
Well, I go back to what Mark said, that for the last 2.5 years, or I can clearly remember, we left that INS tax at 11.5 for this very reason. And for the opportunity, when it presented itself in the need that we would be in a good financial state to even consider this and to recommend it and to vote on something like this for the purpose of facilities for this town.
That is
whether
correct.
it was whatever, but the facilities for this town. And financially, this council, this management team has done a good job in staying on track.